All right. The name is Dale. I'm doing my personal best hip hop groups of all time this time around. Last video, I did my personal best rappers of all time. And this video is done on behalf of Audio Liquor. All right, side note, and this is relating to the last video I did, which was my best rappers of all time. I didn't put Kanye West in there, even though he has the catalog to be in my top 10. He did not do the writing. He did not write a lot of his own shit, from my understanding, with those great albums he made early on in his career. He had Rhyme Fest, Consequence, Sci-Hi the Prince helping him with the writing. A lot of the writing from what I've heard. I just don't know how much they did, but College Dropout, Late Registration, Graduation, and My Dark Twisted Fantasy. Those 4 albums are top notch, high level. And if he had wrote all that shit, he would definitely be in my top 10. So with that being said, I'm about to do my personal best hip hop groups of all time. I'm going to start at 10. 10, I'm going with something a little out of the norm. Most people wouldn't even put this group in their top 10. But like I said, this is my personal top 10. So I'm going at number 10, I'm going with Little Brother. Now, mind you, all these folks in my top 10 are not in order. These are not the exact order that I will put them in, as far as like who's number 5, who's number 6. 1 and 2 are probably my 1 and 2, but the rest is kind of like scattered. So I'm going Little Brother at number 10. Now, when people think of Little Brother and they think of their go-to best album, they say The Minstrel Show. And I understand why. I really like that album. I don't think that's a classic album. I really like the album. I can understand why some folks think it's a classic. It's probably a cult classic in many underground circles. But I think their best album is Get Back. I think that is a classic album. I really like that album. I like Minstrel Show. I really like their Separate But Equal joint. It came out initially as a mixtape with DJ Drama, but it played like an original album because it was all original tracks on there. That joint is banging. And then they brought it out later, minus or without DJ Drama doing all the ad-libs and all the talking on the joint, and brought it out as an album. That joint is strong as shit. That is a very good album. So they have like 3 like very high level albums in my opinion. And their first album was very solid. It showed a lot of potential. Basically, Little Brother has never put out a bad album. Their last 2 albums, their last album was very solid too. I would say it was solid. I wouldn't say very solid. It was solid. But Lil Brother has never put out a bad album. Fonte is a beast on the mic. He's one of my favorite rappers. He would definitely be in my top 50 greatest rappers of all time if I ever did a top 50, which I probably won't because that shit'll be too long. And Big Pooh is definitely nothing to sneeze at. So I'm going with them at number 10. Number 9. It's Public Enemy. I'm going with PE at number 9. That's probably not the order it would be exactly in, but I'm just going for PE with number 9 at this time. What can I say? It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back is a bona fide classic. They got classic songs out the ass. Their first album, Bum Rush the Show, I love that joint. With my Uzi Weighs a Ton on there. Public Enemy number 1, that joint is banging. Fear of a Black Planet, a lot of people love that just as much as they like It Takes a Nation, Takes a Million. People like that just as much as that joint. So PE has the catalog. Chuck D with that great voice. What can I say? The number 8 got NWA, Niggas for Life, Niggas with an Attitude. You got Niggas for Life, you got Straight Outta Compton, 2 bona fide classic albums. I was kind of hesitant to put NWA on my top 10 because they have so little catalog due to the fact that they broke up. Because technically they got, what, 3 albums and 1 EP? They had an album out before Straight Outta Compton. It was called NWA and the Posse. So I guess you would have to include that in a catalog. But being that they had so little material as a group, I was kind of hesitant to put them in my top 10. But Straight Outta Compton, Niggas for Life was so fucking good that I was like, man, I gotta put them in there. And all the careers it birthed, the influence, they basically birthed gangster rap. I know Schoolie D and Ice-T was credited for doing gangster rap before NWA dropped, but man, they made it. I guess they made it like cool to curse, do a lot of cursing on your albums, because before them rappers wasn't really doing a lot of cursing on albums. You rarely heard a cuss word. Like every now and then you'll get a cuss word, but not consistently like we have it now. So you could say some people might think that's a bad thing, a bad influence, but it allowed people to be themselves in a sense. So I gotta put them in there. I'm gonna go with, at 7, I'm gonna go with the Wu-Tang. Gotta put the Wu-Tang in there, even though the last 3 albums were not good to me. Should I say they weren't that good? You know, the first one is a bona fide classic. The second one, Wu-Tang Forever. The double joint, I really like that joint. The W, it was okay, it was solid, but Iron Flag and everything after that, Iron Flag probably their worst album to me. I really don't like that album. I think it's like 2 songs on that joint I fuck with. But they still together as far as I know. That's a feat in itself, because most groups break up and they have like 8 or 9 niggas in a group and to still be together is crazy. That's crazy. That's a feat in itself. I gotta give them a notch for that. You got duos that can't stay together that long, and you got 8 or 9 niggas is able to stay in a group. That's an achievement. And all these solo careers they birthed, gotta give them respect for that. So they my number 7. Number 6. Now, I was kind of hesitant to put this group in my top 10, not because they wasn't worthy. I was thinking, do I go with groups or pairings or duos where it's one rapper and like a DJ / producer as a group? Like would I consider P-Rock and CL Smooth in this conversation, or would I consider Eric B and Rakim in this conversation, or Cool G Rapper DJ Polo, or Fresh Prince and DJ Jazzy Jeff? Like when you got one rapper and then you got a DJ or a producer or / producer in a group, do I put them in this conversation? So I went on, I was tussling with that, and I say, fuck it, I'm putting Gang Starr. So Gang Starr is number 6 on my list. Gang Starr has the catalog, no doubt. I mean, their second album, third, fourth, and fifth albums, to make 4 banging ass albums in a row is a feat. I mean, Step Into the Arena, their second album, is a fucking classic to me. I know a lot of people, they tend to mention Moment of Truth, which is, I understand, which they should, that is a classic, but I think their best album is Step in the Arena, in my opinion, which to me, hearing that production on there, that's the first time I say, oh, that's what I want to do. I want to make beats, even though I didn't make beats until like 8 years after that album dropped. Try to make a beat until 8 years after that album actually dropped. That's the album. What DJ Premier did on that joint made me want to say, okay, I want to make beats. I want to do what that nigga's doing. The production was so phenomenal on that joint. So strong. They third album, Daily Operations, banger. Hard to Earn, banger. Moment of Truth, like I said, is a banger. They never made a bad album. Another group never made a bad album. Even I would say their worst album is probably Owners, which was like their sixth album, The Owners. That was like right before they broke up or whatever the case may be, went their separate ways. And that's not a bad album. It's just not nearly as strong as their other material. Well, their first album is solid. It's very solid for the time it came out. They got some strong songs on it. But they never made a bad album. Even the last album after Guru's death that they put out not too long ago, that DJ Premier put out not too long ago, was a strong album. It's one of the best albums that year. It came out. When they came out, like 2019 maybe, when that came out, or whatever the case may be. One of the strongest albums that year. So what I'm gonna go with? At number 5, I'm gonna go with Mobb Deep. Now, their second album, The Infamous, is a bona fide classic. Love that album. A lot of people like Hell on Earth. I like it. Well, should I say a lot of people love Hell on Earth. I like it, but I don't love it. I never thought Hell on Earth was a classic, but it's, in some circles, there's some folks that believe Hell on Earth, their third album, was a classic. And Murder Music is a classic to me. That might be just a notch below The Infamous. I love Murder Music. That album is a banger. I love that album. That's a classic. They got 2 classics, in my opinion, under their belt. And Prodigy was one of my favorite rappers for a time being. Very strong on the mic. I like his delivery. I like how he's kind of casual with it and shit. Like he wasn't really trying hard, and he always had some slick shit to say. Could get deep at times. Talk that good street shit. He got quotables. Unfortunately, we lost him too soon. Crazy how he died, from what I heard. That's a crazy way to go if that's how he really went. Mobb Deep, definitely. Havoc on the production. Some people have Havoc in they like top 5 producers of all time in some circles. So gotta give Mobb Deep, they at number 5. I'm gonna go Tribe Called Quest at number 4. You know, they got Low End Theory and Midnight Marauders. 2 bona fide classics. Me and my folks, we kind of debate which album is better, Low End Theory or Midnight Marauders. I'm a Midnight Marauders guy. I think that's their best album. I think that's better than Low End Theory, but it's a lot of folks that think Low End Theory is the best album they ever made. Either way, you can't go wrong with either joint. Beats, Rhymes, and Life, that was iffy. I thought that was a letdown. Not one of their strongest joints. That might be their weakest album in my opinion. Because I know some people think Love Moment could be, but I think I actually like Love Moment a little better than that joint. And their last album, they came out with what? About maybe 5-6 years ago? Maybe, I don't know how long. It wasn't that long ago. Maybe 7 years ago. We the People, that was a very strong album. I like that joint. It wasn't a classic by no means, but it was very strong. I really dig that joint. So I'm gonna go with, at 3, I'm gonna go with EPMD. EPMD for a minute was my favorite group. I used to love EPMD. As a matter of fact, when they broke up, I was very upset. That's like one of the few times that I can remember when a group broke up. I was like, what the fuck, man? Why would y'all break up? What? I was like pissed off and disappointed when they broke up. That's how much of a fan I was of EPMD. I mean, they first 4 albums, strong as shit. They first 2 albums are classics. Strictly Business, Unfinished Business are classics, in my opinion. And they third and fourth joints, Business as Usual and Business is Business, was very strong. They made like 4 strong ass albums in a row. That's hard to do. You got to give them credit. The production was different. It was nasty. They had that West Coast feel. For East Coast group, they was like one of the first East Coast groups to do like West Coast type production on their joints. They kind of ushered that in. It was a big influence on a lot of folks. Eric Sermon, they did their own beats. Eric Sermon and Purge did their own production, did their own beats. DJ Scratch did a little production back then on them joints. They broke up, got back together, and the albums after that, they wasn't as nearly as strong as the joints they did before they broke up, but a few of them joints were solid, especially the album right when they came back together called Back in Business. That was a very solid album. So I got them at number 3. Then at number 2, I got De La Soul. De La Soul is one of my favorite groups. I kind of was on the fence, should De La Soul be number 1 or are they number 2? I'm gonna put them at number 2. But I am a huge De La Soul fan. I don't think they made a bad album they never made a bad album, but the one album that I was like, was that Anonymous joint they did. What was that? Maybe like 10 years ago, if that. I don't know how long ago that was. I wasn't totally feeling that. I was disappointed with that. Now, some of my folks who are De La Soul fans, they like that joint. They really like that album. I was disappointed with that album. I think that's their weakest album to me. But before then, they never let me down as far as albums go. But that was the one album I was like, it got some joints on there I fuck with, but overall I was like, I don't know about this joint. But other than that, I really love Stakes is High. That's probably my favorite De La Soul album. But Pastor News, one of my favorite rappers of all time. He's in my top 50, definitely. He got some quotables. Pastor News, very underrated too, in my opinion. Now I'm gonna go with Outkast, number 1. I guess most people could guess that. That's probably in a lot of people's top 10, and I'm sure that's a lot of people's number 1 group of all time. How could you, never put out a bad album? And I don't consider that Idlewild shit one of their albums. That was more so like a joint they did for the movie and shit. So even though I would say that's their worst album out of all their joints, and that's the joint I really didn't care for. So if you want to technically put that in their catalog, I could say that's their one bad album because there was only a few songs on there that I like. But other than that, Criminal, classic. AT Aliens, classic to me. I fuck with that joint hard. They double album, I think that's a classic. How they did that shit. Andre got one CD and our album, and Big Boy got the other. I love how they did that. That shit worked. Outkast, undeniably. They basically brought a lot of respectability to the South. They the ones that actually put the South on the map, in my opinion. I know you had a few folks before them. Yeah, that's no disrespect. When I say South, I'm talking about Atlanta. I'm not talking about the South. Let me correct myself. I'm not talking about the South in general, because you had Scarface and Ghetto Boys and all them dudes out there in Houston and Texas and all that shit. But as far as Atlanta, they put Atlanta on the map, should I say. And they brought respectability to Atlanta, saying, yeah, we can rap too. We not just about ass shaking and bass music and all that shit and club music. We can actually rap and talk about some shit with substance. So going with Outkast, they are number 1. That's it. I gotta do a shameless plug. Me and my folks, Charles, we are called Charles and the Ugly Professor, have an album out. I am the Ugly Professor. He's the rapper, I'm the producer. The name of the album is called Force Multipliers. It's on all music streaming platforms. It's ugly. Well, it's cool, crazy, ugly face music. The production is crazy, if I say so myself. The lyrics, the rapping, the flowing, the concepts, everything is crazy. Charles did his thing. I did my thing. You should get that. One of the better albums of this year, if I say so myself. All right, I'm done. I'm finished. There you have it.